everyone, and welcome to GRUFFtalk, where each week we take a deep dive into all the ways we can feel better, look better, live better, and age better. I'm your host, Barbara Hannah Grufferman. There's so much going on in the world right now that is making us feel anything but happy. In fact, a lot of people I know are experiencing feelings of hopelessness and despair. And maybe there are things going on in your own world that are nipping away at your feelings of happiness. But I know that what you are about to hear will give you hope that happiness is still very much in reach. And sometimes it's just a matter of shifting the focus a bit. Stay tuned.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Forget the frustration of picking commerce platforms when you switch your business to Shopify, the global commerce platform that supercharges your selling wherever you sell. With Shopify, you'll harness the same intuitive features, trusted apps, and powerful analytics used by the world's leading brands. Sign up today for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/tech, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/tech.
What makes you truly happy? We've all pondered this at some point, haven't we? Is it success, wealth, health, love, or something entirely different? Well, today we're going to take a dive into some profound insights from what may be one of the most comprehensive longitudinal studies on adult development and happiness from the Harvard Study of Adult Development. This remarkable piece of research began way back in 1938 and spans across 3 generations, giving us invaluable data culled from the lives of real people over the course of 85 years. This past January, Dr. Robert Waldinger, the current director of this groundbreaking study, along with co-author Dr. Marc Schulz, published a book called The Good Life: Lessons from the World's Longest Scientific Study of Happiness. This book encapsulates decades of insights, and I'm happy to share with you some of the wisdom that Waldinger and Schulz have distilled from this data. So, what have we learned from peering into the lives of thousands of people over nearly a century? Firstly, and perhaps unsurprisingly, taking care of one's health emerged as a fundamental piece of the happiness puzzle. But here's the kicker. The single most potent predictor of our happiness, according to this study, is the quality of our relationships. And here's an interesting paradox, too. While professional success brings its own kind of satisfaction, it doesn't equate to happiness. In fact, many who've achieved great professional heights have found themselves feeling isolated at the summit. It turns out the human touch, the shared laughter, the shoulder to lean on during tough times, these are the ingredients of a life filled with joy. But in today's world, with the digital age creating somewhat of an illusion of connection, loneliness has crept insidiously into our lives. Dr. Waldinger emphasizes the vitality of nurturing our social skills, of actively reaching out and maintaining our bonds. Like muscles, relationships require regular engagement to remain strong, something the authors call social fitness. Here's a little bit more info about the study. Since 1938, the Harvard Study of Adult Development has been investigating what makes people flourish and thrive. After starting with 724 participants, boys from disadvantaged and troubled families in Boston, mixed in with a few Harvard undergraduates, the study incorporated the spouses of the original men and more recently, more than 1,300 descendants of the initial group. Researchers periodically interview participants, ask them to fill out questionnaires, and collect information about their physical health. It's the longest in-depth longitudinal study on human life ever done. Isn't that crazy? And it's brought us to a simple and profound conclusion. Good relationships lead to health and happiness. I mean, that is like the basic premise of the study and the basic premise of their excellent book. Now, the trick is that those relationships must be nurtured. There lies the key. But we don't always put our relationships first, do we? Consider the fact that the average American in 2018, well before the pandemic, spent 11 hours every day on solitary activities such as watching TV or listening to the radio. Thinking about these numbers can help us put our own relationships in perspective. Try figuring out how much time you spend with a good friend or family member. Really think about it. We don't have to spend every hour with our friends, of course, and some relationships work because they're exercised kind of sparingly, right? But nearly all of us have people in our lives whom we'd like to see more. I'm sure of that. Are you spending time with the people you most care about? Is there a relationship in your life that would benefit both of you if you could spend more time together? I'm sure there are. Many of these are untapped resources waiting for us to put them to use. And enriching these relationships can, in turn, nourish our minds and bodies, leading to better health. You don't have to examine scientific findings to recognize that relationships affect you physically. All you have to do is notice how great you feel when you believe that someone has really understood you, really heard you during a good conversation, or the tension and distress you might feel after an argument, or how sleep can suffer if your love life is suffering. In this sense, having healthy, fulfilling relationships is its own kind of fitness, social fitness, as they call it. And like physical fitness, it takes work to maintain. Unlike stepping on the scale, taking a quick look in the mirror, or getting readouts for blood pressure and cholesterol, assessing our social fitness requires a bit more sustained self-reflection. It requires stepping back from your day-to-day life, taking stock of your relationships, and being honest with yourself about where you are devoting your time and whether you are paying attention to the connections that help you thrive. Finding the time for this type of reflection can be hard, sure, and sometimes it's uncomfortable, but it can yield enormous benefits. In an article I found recently in The Atlantic, which is my go-to publication for sharp insights and analyses, by the way, the authors wrote, many of our Harvard study participants have told us that filling out questionnaires every 2 years and being interviewed regularly have given them a welcome perspective on their life and relationships. We ask them to really think about themselves and the people they love, and that process of self-reflection helps almost all of them. So Doctors Waldinger and Schulz really encourage all of us to take this kind of periodic stock in our internal lives. And what about loneliness? Let's segue over to loneliness, which seems to be a global health concern. Loneliness has a clear physical effect on the body. It can make people more sensitive to pain, suppress their immune system, diminish brain function, and disrupt sleep, which in turn can make an already lonely person even more tired and irritable. So, not too eager to reach out to others. Research has found that for older adults, loneliness is far more dangerous than obesity. In fact, many experts come right out and say that loneliness kills. Ongoing loneliness raises a person's odds of death by 26% in any given year. A study in the UK recently reported on the connections between loneliness and poorer health and self-care in young adults. This ongoing study includes more than 2,200 people born in England and in Wales in 1994 and 1995. When they were 18, the researchers asked them how lonely they were. Those who reported being lonelier had a greater chance of facing mental health issues, not surprisingly, partaking in unsafe physical health behaviors, and coping with stress in negative ways. There's no doubt that many people of all ages around the world suffer the effects of loneliness. It is a true health epidemic. In a study conducted online that sampled 55,000 respondents from across the world, 1 out of every 3 people of all ages reported that they often feel lonely. Among these, the loneliest group were, it's heartbreaking to hear this, but they were 16 to 24-year-olds, 40% of whom reported feeling lonely often or very often. In the UK, the economic cost of this loneliness, because lonely people are less productive and more prone to employment turnover, is estimated at more than $3.1 billion annually, and helped lead to the establishment of a UK Ministry of Loneliness to help fight this pandemic. In Japan, 32% of adults expected to feel lonely most of the time during 2020. In the United States, a 2019 study suggested that 3 out of 4 adults felt moderate to high levels of loneliness. That's crazy. As of this recording, the long-term effects of the coronavirus pandemic, which separated us from one another on a massive scale and left many feeling more isolated than ever, are still being studied. As the 2 authors observed in their excellent book, they wrote, alleviating this epidemic of loneliness is difficult because what makes one person feel lonely might have no effect on someone else. We can't rely entirely on easily observed indicators such as whether or not one lives alone, because loneliness is a subjective experience. One person might have a significant other and too many friends to count and yet feel lonely, while another person might live alone and have a few close contacts and yet feel very, very connected. The objective facts of a person's life are not enough to explain why someone's lonely. Regardless of your race or class or gender, the feeling resides in the difference between the kind of social contact you want and the social contact you actually have. Relationships, we know, keep us happier and healthier throughout our lifespans. We neglect our connections with others at our peril. Investing in our social fitness is possible each day, each week of our lives. Even small investments today in our relationships with others can create long-term ripples of well-being and health. Some of the tips I offer in my own book, Love Your Age, The Small Step Solution to a Better, Longer, Happier Life, in the chapter entitled Happiness Matters, include simple, doable things like taking the initiative and calling someone every day, joining a club. This is a great time to plug joining a running club, everyone, in your area to get you moving with others to improve your physical fitness and your social fitness. Try volunteering, engage in community activities, offer to help someone, tell people whom you love that you love them, and do this regularly. Send letters of gratitude or make phone calls of gratitude to people for whom you are genuinely grateful. Ask for forgiveness and offer forgiveness, and immerse yourself in meaningful interactions. Not only do these connections shield us from life's storms, but they also enrich the very texture of our daily living. Conversely, if there are people in your life who simply serve to suck the joy right out of the air around you, it might be time to rethink and reconfigure those relationships, and possibly even cut some of them out of your life completely. And let's shatter a common misconception propagated by the highlight reels of social media that happiness is a constant state. It isn't. Happiness ebbs and flows. Challenges, loss, disappointments are as much a part of our journey as our triumph, love, and joy. What stands out the most from this important study is the sheer power of human connection in navigating these highs and lows. Remember, it's never too late to seek new connections, to rekindle old ties, or to dive into new experiences. In fact, that was one of the most important points of the book. You all know how I feel about the whole never too late thing. I know from personal experience that it's never too late to embark on healthy habits to age better, and improving your connections to others should definitely be a priority. Like me, Most of you tuning in right now are over 50. This is not the time to sit back and be complacent. Nope. On the contrary, it's the time to be fearless, to take control of your relationships, foster the ones that bring you joy, and weed out those that don't. This will not only add to your happiness, but will improve your health and possibly extend your life. Thank you for joining me on today's episode. It gives me great joy to embark on these life-exploring journeys with you. You know I usually have episodes focusing on all the ways we can move our bodies to age better, right? But sometimes we have to dive deep into our inner lives to get the answers we need the most. Check out some of the links I put into the show notes to get more info about the study, the book, its authors, and some other interesting things about happiness. And here's a thought. Go ahead and pick up the phone and call someone right now. Maybe make a plan for dinner, or how about taking a walk in the park, or maybe just catch up with that person. Remember, the more you do to strengthen your connections now, the better you will age later. Talk to you soon. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. If you enjoyed this episode of Gruff Talk, please do 2 things. First, share it with all your friends and family, and subscribe to Gruff Talk wherever you listen to podcasts, including YouTube, so you never miss a single episode. Until next time, remember this. We can't control getting older, but we can control how we do it. Talk to you soon. Age Better Podcast is a proud member of the Sound Advice Network. Sound Advice, women's voices amplified.